right. Hi, everybody. This is Michelle with Connor's Clinic, and I'm having the great opportunity to interview a patient of ours. She's been with us for going on 2 years now. Her name is Christina Kranz. Hi, Christina.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I'd love for you to start out by giving us just a small introduction on who you are, kind of what was your diagnosis when you started with us, and anything else that you'd like to do just to kind of preface who you are to potential patients and current patients who are watching this.
Well, thank you for having me today. I was really honored to be asked, and it's been a journey. So let me just introduce who I am, and then I'd love to just share a little bit about where I am right now. I'm a 35-year-old single woman. I'm a nurse midwife and have worked in hospital settings and home settings. Alternative care has been part of my background, chiropractics, acupuncture, those kinds of things. I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer in January of 2018 and kind of shocked by it because I'd lived a really healthy lifestyle and just thought, I'm the healthcare provider, I'm not the patient. So I live in Western New York State, grew up with a big family and on a farm. I love the outdoors. I love being creative, making pottery, and I love caring for people, and I love the Lord Jesus Christ. So that's kind of who I am, and cancer has rocked my world, stretched me, grown me, made me a different person, a different provider, much more compassionate to people who are suffering, and I've seen my God in a completely different way. He's with me the whole way. So that's a bit of who I am.
That's perfect. So being that you've had a history of being alternatively minded, what was it like for you to receive that diagnosis, given that most people in the alternative spectrum, they're wanting to be healthy because they don't want cancer to come in the future, but often most of them haven't considered the what if. What would I do if? And so when you get that diagnosis, you can be faced with some pretty big decisions and some emotional sways because there's so much fear that surrounds it. So I'm curious to know, what was it like for you to make those decisions moving forward after you were diagnosed?
I had watched two of my grandparents through treatments for cancer, and I had also had a couple of friends who had done alternative treatments for cancer. So I'd kind of seen both firsthand. Yes, I was shocked that I had cancer, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, I'm going to go through treatments, I'm going to lose all my hair, and then I kind of paused, and thought, oh, wait a second, right, I could do something different. And I think part of the process was trying to decide if the people around me were supportive. So I found my family very, very supportive. And I think that helped me a lot in making the big decisions of how to use conventional treatments in a supportive way, but really focusing on alternative treatments. So I guess I really had to ask myself, did I really believe that alternative treatments were as good as I'd always thought for the big one for cancer? So yes, I was prepared to embrace it, but I had a lot of questions in the process.
Yeah. As you began to move forward, how was it blending your primary use of alternative medicine, or your desire to use that, with maintaining a relationship with a traditional doctor or an oncological team?
It's been a little touch and go, but I have to say I have had some wonderful doctors in conventional oncology. Sometimes I've left the office feeling a lot of doubt. They've instilled that doubt in me in all of their questions. Other visits, they've been very affirming. One doctor said to me, I'm the vice president, you're the president. And the next time he's like, well, so here's my plan. I'm hoping you're going to go along with it. So I usually just maintain that I don't make big decisions in the office. And I think that they've come to respect that. So for myself, I I also just purport myself. I am a healthcare professional. I was trained in nursing, so I have a language to share with them. And then I usually just say, but I appreciate science, and some science is showing me that conventional therapy isn't enough. And so I usually just um, sound really confident in the office, and then I leave and I say to my mom, oh my goodness, I have to like offload the things that they've said to me. Otherwise, they keep rolling around in my mind. Well, this could blow up someday,
Yeah. Would you feel comfortable in giving an example of that, kind of the difficulty that you've had to traverse? You certainly don't have to name names. I want to protect and honor that relationship that you have with those practitioners. And so I want to make sure that we're keeping everything above board. But can you give an example? Because I'm sure that you wouldn't be alone in this.
Sure. So you mean an example of something that was said that I've had to disagree with?
Either that or a tough conversation where in the office you were really having to weigh out what it is that you believe in your heart with just navigating that conversation with somebody who's claiming or is, believed to be an expert within that field.
Sure. Um, I would say there was a time when I was declining to do MRIs every 3 months, which is what their request was. And I instead had decided to use the IV gene test with Dr. Connors and ultrasound because it didn't include the gadolinium dye. And the NP who saw me during this particular visit basically came in the room with an agenda, and she told me, you need an MRI, you really should do a hysteroscopy and a biopsy. And she told this to me like 3 times. She didn't even ask me, did I have questions that day? I was really taken aback and kind of felt bullied. And then she was getting ready to leave the room and said, well, if you have any questions, you can always call. And I just all of a sudden realized that I needed to like speak up and stop her. And so I said, well, actually, I do have some things to say. And I was able to just communicate a couple things that, communicated that I was thoughtful, that I was thinking about this, that I wasn't wearing rosy colored glasses and saying, don't worry, I'm just going to get well. I know I'm going to get well. Like I basically had to reframe that I'm a thoughtful, conscientious person, and the things I chose were different than hers, but I was still watching what was going on and making my decisions based on what my values were. And she didn't really give a lot of honor and affirmation to that, but I had to say it. And I think that it helped her to maybe just realize that I was choosing something different and not being neglectful.
Yeah, that's great.
It wasn't really a lot of resolve, but I had to speak up because otherwise she was going to leave the room saying, Christina's just saying no to everything I'm offering. And instead I had to reframe it and say, I'm actually saying yes to things you're not offering.
Right. I think that's good. And that's clearing whether or not your conversation ultimately changed her as a human being moving forward. Maybe
Right.
even the biggest part of that conversation was for you, in that you needing to say something with love and grace that was trying to bridge that gap or to connect the two sides together, was allowing you to walk away feeling like you're doing everything that you can to maintain that healthy relationship.
Sure. I think that's true.
Yeah. How has traditional medicine been helpful for you?
I have utilized progesterone therapy, which is a prescription medication. That has been the main conventional treatment I have used, and then imaging. So I maintain a working relationship with my oncologist for those two services primarily.
Okay. Being that you did your research and chose to come to work with Connors Clinic, how did Connors Clinic provide you the elements that you were looking for within the alternative spectrum? I know that you are well researched and that you really took your time to make this decision prayerfully and academically. And so how did we as a clinic come alongside you the way that you felt you needed?
I felt like Connor's Clinic has always treated me like a person, and a person with knowledge and opinions and a spirit and emotions and a physical body and a relational body. And few other providers offer that kind of care. So I have felt like Connor's Clinic has honored me as a whole being. I also feel like the education and the community, be it the Zoom calls or the Facebook group, or just being able to go to the website and look up like modified citrus pectin, what's it for? Why do I take it? How do I take it? There are just so many resources even on the webpage, and I don't know, you've all been wonderfully encouraging in the process, even if my news has been hard news. You've just kind of sat with me during that, um, and then given me hope, like, okay, let's do another distance kinesiology and see what the next answer is. And to me, that just offers up a lot of hope, because there's always something else to explore and find that's going on in my body that might give a clue as to why things are going well or why things are going poorly. So I feel like it's been a multi-level kind of care that I've received from Connor's Clinic.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, last question in this segment. If there was something or some things, you can have them be plural too, messages that you would like to provide for current patients that we have or potential patients, something that's been on your heart that you'd want to share, I want to give you the opportunity to dispense that information and, maybe provide some people who are looking for encouragement or just a different way to look at things. Just some of that guidance and wisdom that I know that you've gained over the years that you've been working with us.
Sure. I would say the first thing is that when I was first diagnosed, I realized the culture of fear that surrounds oncology. And I felt that from my oncologist. I felt it from the radiologists during imaging. And it's like, hurry up and make decisions fast. Or you don't even have time to make decisions. Here's the plan. Sign on the dotted line. And I guess the Lord just gave me that perception right away that there's a lot of fear-based decision making. And there's just this little truth in the Bible that says that perfect love casts out fear. And I realized that fear shouldn't be making any of my decisions for me, because love should cast out fear, and then I should be able to make decisions in wisdom. So I have just, I guess, gained the awareness that making a decision out of fear is usually going to be hurried and regretted later. I don't make decisions in the office. If I get new imaging results and they give me a plan, I usually just say, okay, I'll give it some thought and I'll get back to you. So my encouragement to anybody who is in the decision-making process, which is kind of continuously, but particularly if you're first diagnosed or you're trying to decide even on alternative care, to just pause and to identify fears and to let the Holy Spirit rid those fears, and instead be surrounded by God's love that casts out fears, and then make sound decisions. That would be my first encouragement, and it's really, really easy to get sucked into make this decision now. But just kind of have these antennas up, like, fear is not a great place to be making decisions. And the second thing I would say is to ask for wisdom. And after I spoke with Dr. Connors the first time ever, I did my interview with him, and he just gave me this wonderful piece of advice that I have done over and over and over, and it is, ask God for wisdom about what direction to take, because he's going to give you the answer. He says, ask for wisdom, and I will give it to you liberally and without scolding you. That's in James. And over, I ask for wisdom. I ask for wisdom before I go to appointments. I ask for wisdom before I call Connor's Clinic and say, hey, can you do distance kinesiology for me? I ask for wisdom sometimes about fixing my food. Is this a good thing for me to be eating today? Or have I eaten this too many days in a row? Maybe I need to switch things up. I just ask for wisdom about the littlest things now because I understand he really wants me to come asking for wisdom. So whether you're making decisions that are little or big, ask. He doesn't ever scold us for asking, and he wants to give it to us liberally. And the third thing I would say is I would never have guessed I'd actually be thankful for the last 2 years, but I am.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Well, Christina, thank you so much for answering these questions for me, and for all of us who will be watching in the future. What a blessing. You have been a blessing as a patient to our clinic, and we're looking forward to many years ahead. So thank you for talking with us today.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.